Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the fourth round of the 2014 iRacing.com IndyCar Series Road Course, here powered by And One Design. The cars are currently on their pace lap. We are getting set to go racing in just a couple of moments' time. Will Vincent, along with Jake Cameron and Randy Chenoweth, as you see the cars working themselves through the S's. We will very quickly run through your grid. It is Jeffrey Wakefield on pole position, Joel Guez in second, Antoine Hegling in third, and Samuel De La Fuente in the fourth position. Richard Avery, Junior Aligo in the third row of the grid, Fabio Gonzalez and Alexander Vob in row number 4. Then it's Jose Pligas Langa, Colin Abati, and Michael Morgan and Danny Garuso, who rounds out your top 6 rows of the grid. And here we are, getting set to go racing at the amazing Sonoma Raceway. Very quickly, before we come to the green, Randy, final thoughts?
Turn 1. This is going to be a great race. Sorry, I didn't realize that was final thoughts, but this is going to be a good one. Jeffrey's quick, Joel's quick. There's a lot of fast guys in this race.
Yeah, the car's working themselves. You see, green flag in the air, coming down now, down towards turns 3 and 3A for the first time here in this event. Your race leader, Jeremy Whitfield, has got himself a good start in this event already, about a 1 second advantage over Antoine Hegling as those cars storm themselves down through the hairpin. For the first time, we have got a car off track there, but it looks like everybody's through, and we have got one person, Danny Garuso, at the rear of the field. He is off. We'll get ourselves a replay of that. Always difficult to have yourself an incident in those first couple of corners there, Jake.
Yeah, always very, very difficult when you have an incident in the first couple of corners. But I think that was Alexander Fobb that there went just straight on through 3A. Hit the tyre wall, and he's got a tiny bit of damage on that DW12, so he may have to pit early in this race. But other than that, the field all making it through them first set of S-Bends first time rounds. A very interesting race to start with, and Antoine Hegling already trying to claim through the field.
Yeah, and there you see your top 3-4 cars. And of course, these drivers will have 10 push-to-passes over the course of this event, as we are going to get the sound up, ladies and gentlemen. We do apologise for that. But here you see, you're going to ride on board with Joel Guez as they work themselves now back down turn 1 and 2. And Randy, one of the difficult things about this racetrack, these cars adjusting into the high curbs of Sonoma.
Oh yeah, the high curves are very, very difficult. I've heard a lot of people complaining that the cars have been pogoing a bit as you hit those high curbs. One of the other things that are difficult about this track is that there's a lot of blind corners with all those hills. You come up over a hill, and you're coming up the hill approaching the corner, and the corner's at the very, very peak of it. You cannot see where you need to turn in. A lot of it is just all muscle memory.
Riding on board with Julian Ligo, running himself in P6 right now. And you see there's many different configurations here at Sonoma, and they're working themselves down into the second hairpin right now. Very close battle for P4, P5, P6 on the racetrack as they're working themselves on lap number 2 of 34. And Julian Ligo, so far in this race, starting in 6th position, running in 6th position in that Mastic e-cigarettes car as they work themselves down into the chicane. And Jake, this chicane can be very difficult. We do expect, once these tyres wear out, this is going to be one of the critical passing zones on the racetrack.
Yeah, very critical area in this track. One of the most critical, actually, Will, except from the S-Bends. But your drivers are going to have to be very careful when they come down there with the worn-out tyres on the later stints, because it's only a 34-lap race, so it's not going to be that long. As I see, we've actually just had an incident on the racetrack. We'll have to get confirmation on that one and a replay on your screens.
Yeah, we'll get that in just one moment's time. But right now, Tom Ward running in the 15th position is all over the rear of P12, which is Christian Theo Zook, running themselves right now in P12, P13 respectively. It's our ARC Friction Racing team work themselves through turn number 4 once again. And Randy, these cars do have a lot of grip in the early laps. This is that point already, lap 3 of that race, where that starts to go away. You will get that disappearing more and more over the course of this event. But your race leader, Jeffrey Whitfield, already a 1.7 second advantage over P2. And he's got really hope right now that he can pull out that advantage in case he overcooks his tyres too much at the start of this event.
Yeah, these tires do like to drop off a bit on the road course. It's not too bad, but it is definitely noticeable. Oh, you got to back up your braking zones a little bit, be a little easier as you roll the car through the corner. But, as Antoine, as we've seen, Antoine gets really loose going into the last hairpin there. Able to hold it together. He probably lost himself about a half second there on time, brought Joel back in, but he lost Jeffrey a bit more. And, yeah, those tires drop off, this track's going to get more and more difficult to drive.
And you're having a look from the rear right now of Antoine Heglin running that second position. It is fellow compatriot Joel Guiz running in the third position. Those of you who saw our coverage last week saw Joel Guiz having an absolutely amazing race. But these guys are now battling for P2, P3, P4 on the racetrack. And behind them, you've also got just in the mix Julian Aligo in that battle there as well, running himself in P5 right now. He has got a little bit of a challenge going on though from Samar de la Fuente, running himself in the 6th position on the racetrack. So having a look from the rear of Julian Aligo as they come down once again to that right-hand hairpin, then work themselves through these S's.
Oh, we got an incident in the hairpin, in the final hairpin.
Yes, we have, as that is, we'll get a confirmation of that in just a moment's time. Go Guiz. So Guiz, who had himself a good start to this. Now, this is the first incident you see him getting loose on the racetrack. We'll have a look behind him as you see all the cars just storming past. He'll get that car back out onto the racetrack eventually, but we'll continue to ride on board of him, and then you'll see a second incident as he comes down into the chicane. So Gold Guiz's day is not going well at all. The first incident started a chain reaction, those tyres overheated, down the chicane he comes, and once again using that curb on the exit, then looping that car around. Gold Guiz into the gravel, now down into the 16th position on the racetrack. And Randy, that is not the way you want to start a race here at Sonoma when passing can be so difficult.
Oh yeah, getting yourself into that dirty air of the entire field is definitely not good. And like you said, Sonoma is not an easy track to pass at. There's a couple good places, most notably going into the hairpin after the carousel, and then obviously down in the chicane. But even then, passing is a job here, even with push to pass. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to battle back through the field. Hopefully he's able to get himself a good finish, but I doubt he'll find his way back to the front in the rest of this race.
Having a look on board there just a moment ago with Samar de la Fuente running in the 5th position. You can see the oversteer that he was getting through those last couple of corners. And Randy, that's an important point. These guys have deliberately set their cars up for the most part to be loose at the start of the run. As we see the Mystic car just ahead of him, and Junior Lugo getting a little bit loose there through turns 3A and 3B. And now Fuente getting loose through turn number 4. These guys are trying to set their cars up to be a little bit loose in the first couple of laps. So then that they're in a neutral phase right most of the run, only getting tight very towards the end of a fuel run. But it does seem to be that some of these guys have been a little bit too loose. Of course, Gold Guiz is the last of them, as we have got Graham Carroll right now, who looks as though he is out of the race.
Yeah, definitely there is a definitely balance between the way you want to balance the car. Like you said, the car does get a little bit tight in the middle of the run as the tires heat up, so it can be beneficial to run the car looser. Generally what I try to do is I try to actually play with anti-roll bars early on in the run, and I try to keep it from getting too loose. As we see, who was that with that? That was Aligo getting loose, and then immediately after De Fuente gets loose trying to pass him. These guys are really struggling right now on this racetrack.
We'll get ourselves a replay of that. But, of course, you talk about the anti-roll bars. These drivers have got the anti-roll bars, both front and rear, which they can adjust on their race cars. As there we see confirmation. Also, De La Fuente has got a little bit of damage to the front wing of his car by the looks of it. You see, trying to set himself up for pass, then getting himself wicked loose down into the corner, dirt tracking it through the car park section. Of course, that is where the drag strip is as well, as these guys continue to battle for P3, P4, P5 on the racetrack. But these guys do have the anti-roll bars front and rear. They can adjust. They also have got themselves the weight jacker. Isn't as much of a factor on the road courses, but Randy, you can utilize it in certain corners just to give yourself a little bit of an extra tweak if you're very brave.
I don't know, I just leave it at 0.
But right now, some great battles going on the racetrack. We're checking in right now, Jake, with battle for P10, P11 between Theo Zook and Tom Ward, battling for those positions on the racetrack. These guys have really been at it pretty much since the drop of the green flag, and just behind him as well, Ortega and Coach also battling for P12 and P13 on the racetrack.
Yeah, Tom Ward's really been at it all since the start of the race. He's been trying to get all over the back of Christian Thilo Zurich, and he's not been able to make it work just yet. But as you say, there's battles going on all over the racetrack, and the best one I've been watching so far is this battle here for the 8th and 9th position between Carlo Labatti and Marco Magaren. It's a very good battle going on. They've been very close, swapping positions every lap now and again, but other than that, it's just been running very close, and they've not seemed to get loose either, so they've obviously got a good setup to run straight from the start, unlike one of them loose guys up front, as we actually see the retirement there of Graham Carroll come out.
And also Alexander Vob, it looks like he's had an issue as well. So Alexander Voss We need to get that one right. I do apologise to Alexander Voss for butchering his name over the last couple of weeks. But, Randy, pit stops for this race, you're looking at anywhere between lap number 15 and lap number 25. A very wide pit window. I have heard from a couple of those drivers that they might try and do that pit window as early as possible, rather than going late into the run, going about halfway through this event, trying to see how they go. For Jeffrey Redfold, of course, he's now got himself a 4-second advantage over Hegelin. This battle for the race lead isn't yet over because of the fact it's such a wide pit window, anything can happen here.
Yeah, the pit window is pretty wide, and that's kind of what we've seen a lot in some of these races. A lot of them you need to pit right at halfway, but you do have a bit of flexibility this week. I know if it were me, I would try to go as long as possible in the first stint. I always think it's more beneficial to have that shorter pit stop than it is to have necessarily a longer one, even if you can carry less fuel in your first stint. But it'll be interesting to see what the strategies are like. That's one of the fun things about these series, is watching how people's strategies differ so much.
Carlo Labate right now runs himself in the 8th position on the racetrack as we ride on board with him, trying to close down to the rear of Jose Langer, who's running in the 7th position right now. The last time by, it was a 1:17.233 for Labate, which is 7/10 of a second off of his fast lap on the race. And Jake, a lot of that will come down to the fact that these tyres now have got temperature into it and they're losing grip with every single lap.
Not just that, Will, a lot of it came down to his strategy into the last turn as well. He just went wallop straight into the last turn, tried to go up the inside of Jose Laguna, and he didn't really make it work and nearly spun himself out. And that's what also made Marco Morgren fall back a bit as well, because he's now back about 0.3, 0.4 of a second when he was right on the back of that number 8 car. So that affected both the guys in that battle. But looking back to this 10th place battle, well, it seems to have flurried out now, as Tom Ward has had a little incident on the racetrack. I didn't actually quite see it, but he's dropped back into the P14 spot now as well.
So he moves down in position, of course, ticker running along the top of your screen. That is the battle for P7, P8 on the racetrack as it stands. But out front, it is still Jeffrey Redfold, as we've got Bill Fraser as well on pit road, making his first pit stop of the day. In fact, it does look as though he might have had an issue because he is down on pit road, getting himself a tow. And we've got another car into pit road, and that is Gol Gurez making his first pit stop. And I'll tell you what, now he's in that pit window, Gol Gurez, with that damage, I think he is just so happy he can finally make a stop and get himself off that set of tyres and get some damage repaired there, Randy.
Oh, definitely. You really don't want to pit before you make it on gas, obviously, because then you have to make another pit stop to get fuel. And that just completely slaughters any chances you had of getting a decent finish. But I guarantee you he's jumping for joy that now he can pull in, get that damage repaired, and then get back out there on the racetrack and start winding his way through this field.
That falls Gurez down into the 18th position on the racetrack. He is the second to last car on the lead lap right now. That is Hugh Lamy running himself in the 19th position on the racetrack. So then, to run through your top 5, it is Jeffrey Redfold. There he is on your screen, leading this race right now. We're a 4.6 second advantage, as we have got a car off onto pit road, actually. That is Jose Langer making an early pit stop as well. So to continue to run through your top 5, it is Redfold from Hegelin, from Avery, from Aligo, from Defunte. But pit stops are starting very early here, Jake.
Yeah, pit stops coming out very early in this, just on lap number 11, so some guys obviously opting for that very short strategy as the first one, and maybe taking a longer stint for the second. But very interesting to see guys come down with no damage on lap 11. Well, as you say, it's going to be very early for them. Will their tyres be able to last until the end, especially with that tricky chicane where the driver's going to have to be hard on the brakes, especially behind a guy, and also in the draft they're going to have that aero wash going into the chicane. So very interesting to see as we'll get towards the end of this race. I reckon in after lap 25 or so, it could really start hotting up for the battle towards the front and maybe the top 5 positions.
It was a 7.2 second stop, by the way, for Langer, as he's now back out onto the racetrack, running in the 17th position. We are checking in on this battle for P10 and P11 between Fernando Guerrero-Ortega and Niels Koch, battling for that P10 position. And that last time by, they're pretty much even on time. But this really does show the aero effect this track can have, Randy. It can be very difficult to pass cars here. You've really only got 2, maybe 3 passing opportunities. And this is one track where pit stops can be so incredibly vital.
Oh, yes. Like we've been saying the whole race, dirty air absolutely a killer, especially with as few passing places as there are. And the thing is that compared to a lot of tracks, the passing opportunities here are not followed by straightaways that are all that long. So you don't really get that draft effect to the extent that you'd have at a place like Road America or any other, you know, larger circuit that has a long straightaway. A lot of it is just having to get a better drive off the corner and then utilizing your push to pass in order to get a nose and then try to force your way by under the brake, as opposed to where at Road America you just like tuck in and then just wait until you're alongside and then you're door to door by the time you get to the braking mark. So it makes passing incredibly difficult, but it also makes passing incredibly fun.
So then, let's run through your top 5 once again. Here he is, Jeffrey Retvold, still leading the way, concluding his 12th circuit around this Sonoma Raceway. Think outside the oval. Antoine Hegling right now, 5.4 seconds behind him on the racetrack. There you can see Hegling working himself down towards turn number 1. 1.2 second advantage to Richard Avery. Avery runs in 3rd position. Julian Aligo right now runs in the 4th position. Then a 2.2 second gap to Samuel de la Fuente, who runs himself in the 5th position overall. But this field really has spread out, and you have to say, Jen, this is the biggest field spread we have seen possibly all season long. A lot of that does come back down to the multiple strategies he can have. This field will spread out, but it will come back together a little bit later on, potentially in this race.
Yeah, as you say, Will, it has spread out quite a bit towards the front though, but looking halfway through the pack, we've got a three-way battle going on for 10th, and then we also have Ivan Soul and Sam Clark battling out for the 13th position on the racetrack. So towards the back, stuff is still sort of racing in a pack racing going on, but towards the front, as you say, everyone is really separated now. 1 second, 2 seconds separated, most guys up the top, but they will come together again after the set of pit stops, and once strategy has played its part in this race, whether that will be 5 seconds gap or whether it will only be a second gap between them. And we actually go 3 wide there, just down into the S-bends, and that's actually Tom Ward up the inside.
We got contact going into the hairpin between Nils Koch and Fernando Ortega.
Well, Randy, that's what I was going on about.
Oh, well, I wasn't paying attention to you.
We'll get ourselves a replay of that up on your screen. This is coming down into the hairpin. A potential 3-wide situation. We'll have a look on board with Nils Koch to start with. As he comes down into the hairpin, you can see right behind, going to try and make a late lunge for it. Will he do so? You see very late on the brakes there for Nils Koch. And we'll have a look, and then you see 2 cars incident around him. We'll get our 360 cam working, but Nils Koch getting 2 positions there in as many laps. We'll get ourselves another replay of that incident, and there's the 2 guys, which was Ortega around him in that one, and Tom Ward involved in it as well. So this is it from Ortega coming down, working himself through that sweeper down towards the hairpin. Now this is where things start getting really dire. You can have a look from the rear of that Club Iberia car, and this is where things start getting a little bit wrong. 3 wide for just 1 moment, then a little bit of contact between the 5 and the 16 car. And Randy, if you're going to make a move at the hairpin, don't ever go 3 wide.
Well, going 3 wide isn't necessarily the problem, but if you're going 3 wide sideways is usually when bad things start to happen, which is what we saw there.
That is a true story indeed, and Tom Ward now has got a 2.7 second advantage over Ivan Sol, but we're right along board him because he is now just about 0.4 of a second behind Fernando Ortega as they come down towards pit entry, and you see, oh, that's a chicane, and very loose there was Tom Ward. Now, that lap 15, this is the point where things are going to get very difficult for those drivers to take, and it seems to be Tom Ward under braking didn't quite know what he needed to do.
No, he didn't quite know what he wanted to do there, I don't think, and he gets very loose there on the exit of the final turn, coming up the hill onto the home straight. So his car seems to be struggling a lot at the moment. Them tyres on the back must be very, very hot at the moment, so he needs to bring that car down pit road as soon as possible. But he did stay out on this lap by, so he's either going to lose some positions and happily take that and then gain it after his pit stop, or he's going to come down and be sensible about it, but very unfortunate for him. But looking at the battle behind him though, Sam Clark and Ivan Sol, seems to be pulling that gap out, Will, and there's nothing really that Clark can answer back to him. And just to put you right, it's not Niles Koch, it's actually Niles Koch.
By the way, Nathan Saxon is on pit road. A pit stop for him. 7.5 seconds on the jack. He is out and away in that Jack blue car as he works himself down pit road. It is a very slow pit road speed here. Just 45 miles an hour as he tries to bring himself back out onto the racetrack. And here he is, back out in P19 for the time being. But we are getting very close to the main bulk of these drivers coming onto pit road to make their one and only pit stop here today. That battle for P2, P3, it has started to hot up. Richard Avery, that last time by, did himself a 1:15.772. He was a tenth of a second faster than Antoine Hegelin, despite the fact, Randy, that he was in dirty air. Richard Avery is on the move.
Oh, definitely. Richard and Antoine are, DWC drivers that you can see. They got those black stripes on their helmets, and I'm sure they're in their car somewhere. I don't know where they hide the stripes on this car, but it's definitely some experienced and fast guys in these single seaters battling it out. And I don't know how often they race together in the DWC or Pro Series or wherever they're at. I don't pay attention to that, but it's going to be really fun to see these two experienced guys go at it toward the end of this race.
And as they come down into that final corner, Avery and Hegelin continue to battle for P2 on the racetrack. So having a look now from the rear of Hegelin to Richard Avery. There you see the gap, just 0.7 of a second. Last lap for Hegelin. Yeah, last lap for Hegelin, a 1:16.1. Last lap for Avery, a 1:15.8. Avery is now officially on the move, as this time by it will be halfway through this race. To run through your top 10, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get it along the side of your screen. It is Redfield leading by Hegelin by 5.6 seconds. Then it's Richard Avery in third, Junior Ligo in fourth, Samuel De La Fuente in fifth, Marco Morgan in sixth, Carlo Labate in seventh, Fabio Gonzalez in eighth, Niels Koch in ninth. Gonzalez actually is onto pit road, and that is going to change that order completely. There you see him, and that is going to be a pit stop time of 8.5 there for Fabio Gonzalez. He is back out onto the racetrack.
Yeah, he comes back
out. He's probably going to be P10, P11, maybe
he's P12.
P12, I was close. I get an A for effort.
You get a C for effort, but Fabio Gonzalez, as you can see, back out onto the racetrack. Now, outlaps are so important here, Randy. You've got to make sure that outlap, if you get clean air, whatever you do, push like there's no tomorrow.
Oh, definitely. This is definitely a track where if you can push it a little harder than your competitors can, because you're coming out, you're going to be on cold tires, the car is going to be loose. If you're a little bit better on those cold tires, you're going to make up leaps and bounds of time compared to a lot of other tracks. This track is just so complicated with so many fast corners and hard braking zones and slow corners and blind corners that if you can be brave about it and make it work, you can make up a couple seconds in a pretty short amount of time.
We're just checking in behind, battle for P16, P17 on the racetrack between Danny Gruza and, of course, the recovering Sam Clark on the racetrack. There you see them now, as they're just working themselves down towards the hairpin. There you see Danny Gruza at the front of your screen. We'll zoom out. There you can see the two cars in proximity and the battle going on ahead of them for P14 and P15 on the racetrack. As now into the second half of this race, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to re-welcome you here to the fourth round of the 2014 Season 3 Road Course Championship. We've got two drivers onto pit road. They are these guys, Niels Koch on pit road, and we've also got your race leader on pit road, Jeffrey Ritvold, and he is coming onto pit road. We'll ride along board with him.
Richard Avery also coming down pit road this time. Antoine Hegelin stays out though.
So Hegelin will become officially your second leader of the race now, running on board with Jeffrey Ritvold. Pit fill speed 45 miles per hour. Randy, don't overshoot your pit box. It's very easy to do here at Sonoma. You do so, it's game over.
Oh, definitely, because then you got to go all the way back, pull down pit lane again, then you have to do the stop. It's so frustrating. I've done it before. I'm sure many people have before. It is, like you said, extremely easy to do here at Sonoma. Right now, I'm watching Antoine Hegelin, though, because I think that he could get himself a pretty decent advantage if he can go far enough into the run than Jeffrey was able to go. If he goes far enough, he'll be coming out with a lighter fuel load, and he'll spend less time in the pit box. So it'll be really interesting to see how this works out.
Jeffrey's actually just come out of his pit box. I think he's only taken fuel in that pit stop as well, because it seemed a very quick pit wheel. What was the confirmation time on that?
It was an 8.2 second stop there for Ritvold. He has got, though, a little bit of traffic who we will have to deal with. And you can see it's Carlo Labate will look from the rear of him, as there you see finally that traffic is gone past. Carlo Labate has just allowed Ritvold to go past there in that number 5 car. Just get ourselves a very quick replay of that. Antoine Hegelin is your race leader, as Julian Ligo now onto pit road as well. But there you see Carlo Labate just going to allow Ritvold to go past as they come out of that sweeping left-hand corner, working themselves down the back straight away. And there you see, side by side, and very easy Labate just saying, yep, have that position, I know you are faster. But for Julian Ligo, sorry, he is on pit road. He is out of pit road. Marco Morgan also on pit road right now. He's going to make his stop in just 1 moment's time. But for Julian Ligo, 4 fresh tyres, topping it up with fuel. And it looks as though that stop is going to be about the same. 8.5 seconds. That is the target plan. 7.9 there for Julian Ligo. Very quick stop by him. Of course, that won't give him the race lead. Will give him a bit of an advantage, though, over Antoine Hegelin.
Yeah, it will give him a tiny advantage on Hegelin, but Hegelin seems to be dropping back a lot on these tyres, Will. So he now comes through the S-bends. Will he come down into pit road this time by? He stayed out 2 laps longer than what our current race leader, Jeffrey Reitfeld, has. So Hegelin may be having that strategy from the DWC. Being a DWC driver, obviously going to have them stronger strategies than the guys that are not part of the DWC. And actually, he stays out again.
Yeah, and the thing for Hegelin, don't forget, at the top of this broadcast, I did say that pit window is between lap number 15 and 85. So there's Hegelin. We're right on board of him as he comes through turn number 1 and turn number 2 once again. Now, his last lap time was a 1 minute 16.004. Now, that is only 4/10 of a second slower than his fastest lap of the race. But Antoine Hegelin, he needs to carry on pushing. Now, if he's secured his tyres and saved his tyres early on in this run, Randy, it can be an advantage because, of course, he'll have to take so much less fuel when he actually does come onto pit road. At the same time, the second he over pushes those tyres, like now, around lap traffic, it could be game over.
Oh, definitely, and it's going to be really interesting to watch. The advantage he gains will be less on the time spent in pit road, though, because the fuel times are so quick in this car. It's going to be more, he's going to be out there on fresher tires and with a lighter car than anything. And that's where we're going to see him potentially being able to run down our leader of Jeffrey Reitfeld. Also, maybe, you know, there's also times he can get on pit entry, pit exit, but it's definitely, I'm definitely looking forward to watching the end of this race between our leaders.
There you see the gap between Antoine Hegelin and Jeremy Reitfeld. It is 26-ish seconds on the racetrack. We'll get confirmation, though, of what the gaps are, the lap times. That's the important thing. The next time they come past the start-finish line, Antoine Hegelin does himself a 1 minute 16.087. We are waiting, of course, for Jeremy Reitfeld. There he is on your screen, working himself now down towards the final corner, and he's got a little bit of lap traffic, which might impede his lap this time by. Jake, this could be critical, but he is going to get himself past that lap traffic and just moves himself out of the way there, which is incredibly useful, but it did still cost Avery a couple of tenths of a second. Of course, we need to focus on Reitfeld, but Avery getting held up by traffic just a little bit there.
Yeah, Avery getting held up by traffic a little bit as he crosses the line. He does a 1:15.960, whereas Jeffrey actually did just put in a 1:15 dead. So
wow,
incredible lap times from him, and that's only on his second lap out of the pits as well. His quickest lap of the race, get this, Will, was only his first lap out of the pits, and that was a 1:14.528, not including his out lap, so technically the second lap out of the pits. And Hegelin's only doing 1:16, so I'm sure that gap's going to come down a lot in the next couple of laps.
There you see it on your screen. Last time by 1:16.087 for Hegelin, 1:15.096 for Jeremy Reitfeld. And here comes Hegelin onto pit road and very close to the wall there, Randy.
Oh, he hits the wall.
He does hit the wall. So Antoine Hegelin, from the lead of this race, he has got a lot to do in the next 25 seconds to try and keep Jeremy Reitfeld behind him. It's going to be a tall struggle at best. He's running on board of Antoine Hegelin right now. But here he is onto pit road. You can see his car just behind the wall there. But for Antoine Hegelin, that could be game over. Even if he comes out in front of Reitfeld, he might have some damage now, Randy.
I just did a 360 around his car. I don't see any damage. He might be okay, but that's going to be really, really difficult for him. That was a hard hit on that car. As you see, Reitfeld goes past, and let's see where the Anon filter back in.
He filters back into P2s. He's back out onto the racetrack, but Reitfeld is back out in front. Antoine Hegelin is down into second position once again. Once again, your race leader is going to be Jeremy Reitfeld, as they see 6.6 seconds there for Antoine Hegelin. But once again, your race leader, and there you see him. It is a big gap. It won't come up on our screen just yet. It's about 1.8 seconds for Richard Avery right now between Reitfeld and Avery. But your race leader does have a huge gap right now. And Reitfeld is in complete command of this race. And he has been absolutely dominant so far, you have to say, Jake.
Yeah, he has been very dominant, played the strategy very well, but Häggglin, will be interesting to see what the gap is when he passes, because it was about 5.6 seconds when he came into pit road, so be interesting to see if he's made that shorter, or if Reutefeldt has actually made a good strategy call and stretched that gap to maybe 7-8 seconds, as it looks it could be on the racetrack. So Häggglin has got back markers in front of him, though he's going to have to pass before he can catch the leader.
So, ladies and gentlemen, lap number 24 of 34 here at Sonoma. Think outside of the oval. We will step aside for just 1 second, and we'll be right back after these very short messages. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second half of our coverage here. Working ourselves on lap number 26 now of 34 here at Sonoma Raceway. Think outside of the oval. Don't forget, the next round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series will take place August 30th here live on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live from the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace. That'll be the Interlagos circuit for 72 laps. And can Arnaud Picard make it 2 in a row? Can Martin Cronke or Hugo Luis potentially close that gap to Gregor Hutu? We'll find out in just 1 week and 1 day here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Welcome back to our coverage here on RaceSpotTV. Will Vincent along with Jake Cameron and Manny Chenworth in the booth. And it is that time to go through your field, and we will start with your overall race leader, Jeremy Reutefeldt. Last lap time, 1:15.55 seconds. And you have to say, Jake, he's got through some traffic and he is back in command.
He's got through some traffic, and he's also got the strategy to pay. And what a strategy that's been so far in this one. He's been dominant over the top of Anton Häggglin and Richard Avery in this. They haven't had anything to answer to his questions he's been given out in this one. So great drive from him so far. Can he hold on to the end of that one, though? We'll see in the next 10 laps.
Right on board with Jeremy Reutefeldt as he works himself past start finish line. A little bit of lap traffic ahead of him as he comes down through turn 1 and down into turn number 2. That sharp right-hander. He looks as though he might stay behind that lap traffic as he actually works himself now down through 3A and 3B once again. Randy, I've never understood why they call and name these like the way they do. 3A, 3B, 3C and all of these corners makes things very difficult for us commentators, but the one thing that is clear, Reutefeldt has got a huge advantage right now. Gap between himself and Antoine Häggglin, 7 seconds on the racetrack as he finally gets himself past that lap traffic.
Yeah, definitely a good move by Jeffrey there, and I've never really understood the cornering numbers in
Because they're American.
in America either. Yeah, it's because we're American. I mean, here we have legitimate turns that just get a letter, and then you go to Road America and Laguna Seca, and then things that aren't even turns get numbered because I think we'd rather get drunk than actually worry about like logistical cornering numbered system.
So there you see your race leader getting himself now
Plus,
past.
if you ask most Americans, a racetrack only has 4 corners.
you see there, your race leader, Jamie Retford, getting himself past that loud traffic. Antoine Hegling, there you see him on your screen, working himself now in that second position on the racetrack. But for Antoine Hegling, it has been a tough day here today. There you see him on your screen as he works himself right behind the pit curtains. And there you see him on your screen there in an Apex Racing Academy car. The number 3 machine has got himself right now a 3.2 seconds advantage over Richard Avery, who runs himself in that 3rd position on the racetrack. But for Antoine Hegling, he had himself a good race. Potentially, you have to say, Randy, potentially he just ran himself too long in that first stint.
Perhaps a little bit. It is important to note, though, that the gaps between before the pit stops happened and now are about the same. So I don't know if it was just a difference in strategy, or if he might have even been able to just hold the gap. Because if you look at the lap times over the course of the race, they haven't been that different.
Yeah, it hasn't been. I mean, it's about 4 seconds between Hegling and Avery. As we're going to have a look now on Richard Avery, who runs on himself in the 3rd position on the racetrack. There you see him right along board with him for just 1 moment's time. And Jake, Avery's had himself a strong race. He's been able to hold off Samuel De La Fuente and actually build up an advantage over him through that sequence of pit stops. But Avery hasn't had anything for that top 2 here today.
No, Avery's not answered any of them 2 questions up front, and it's something that he needs to do really if he wants to finish in the top 2, top 3 in the championship. But he's been struggling a bit in this race as well. I've not seen him to his top performance really in this, and I think he can just give it a little bit better. I think he's only given it 95% at the moment, but he has stretched the gap out, but he seems to be losing a lot of time to Antoine Hegling in front, who we can't count out of this one, Will. There's still 5 laps, 6 laps to go, so that time's coming down between him and Reitveld as well. It's now down to just 5.4 seconds on the raceway.
There you see Richard Avery running himself in that 3rd position on the racetrack. We'll zoom out and then we'll zoom back down to Samuel De La Fuente running himself in that 4th position right now on the racetrack. There you see him. Beautiful car there. And actually, it's safe to say, one of the most vibrant paint schemes we've seen in the IndyCar series this season. In that GT Ross car, right along board with him for just a couple of corners. The gap between himself and the car behind him, Junior Ligo, well, that's at 12 seconds almost on the racetrack right now, Randy. And De La Fuente, top 5 car, not quite close enough, though, for a podium finish here today.
Oh, definitely not, but he should still be pretty happy with 4th in this strength of field race. There's a lot of fast guys in here, as we got some smoke coming down towards the chicane. Not sure what happened there, can't really see anyone off, but yes, De La Fuente, Aligo, and someone else that I think should be really proud of the run, Marco Mogren.
Oh, actually, De La Fuente just spinning it there on our screen. So we'll get ourselves a replay of that. But De La Fuente is now going to be very close to being passed by, actually, Junior Aligo in that battle for P5. We'll see if we can get ourselves a replay of that. We'll work ourselves back on board with... There we see, just coming out of the chicane, there you see Samuel De La Fuente, just opposite lot coming out of the corner there. De La Fuente, now really, those tyres are heated up and running. That could really hurt him towards the end of this race, because tyre temperature is so important here at Sonoma.
Oh yeah, and plus his main competitor right now, Julian Alego, running in 5th, is only about 4 or 5 seconds back. So it's going to be really interesting to see if De La Fuente's tires are heated up too much at all.
To run through the rest of your top 10, it's Julian Aligo right now running in that 5th position on the racetrack. Aligo last lap time at 1:16.074. He's got himself a 5-second advantage right now over Fabio, who runs himself in that 6th position. There you see Fabio Gonzalez running himself 6th position on the racetrack. Between Fabio Gonzalez and P7, Marco Morgan, it's about 4 seconds on the racetrack right now. Between Morgan and Carlo Labate, you've got a 13.8 second advantage. And then Labate to Gurez is 2.2 seconds. Gurez, of course, had that incident a little bit earlier on in this race. Gurez has been able to recover from that, get himself up now to P9 on the racetrack. And then in P10 is Christian Theo Zux. But, of course, for Zux, he also had an incident earlier on, like a 3-wide situation down at the hairpin. We showed you a little bit earlier on. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the next round of the ISOWC IndyCar Series is here. It's live on RaceSpotTV tomorrow. That will be from 6 p.m. GMT as these guys once again take over the tricky, difficult Sonoma Raceway. And you've got to say, of all of the seasoned races, everyone says, Randy, that it's going to be Mid-Ohio that's difficult. It's going to be places like Spa that's difficult. Sonoma is one of those top 4 races which are really, really tough.
Oh, I definitely think Sonoma's probably the hardest track on the schedule. To be honest, Spa everyone pretty much knows and has figured out, and I don't think it's really that difficult of a track to drive. Mid-Ohio's pretty up there, but Sonoma's up there. But thank you for reminding me that there's an ISOWC race that I haven't practiced for.
Not to worry at all. And again, that'll be here live on RaceSpotTV from about 6 p.m. GMT tomorrow. We'll bring you the last couple of moments of qualifying and, of course, the race itself here on RaceSpotTV. But for Richard Avery, we're going to ride along board of him for just one moment's time. And Randy, just talk us through. He's coming down towards the end of this lap. We have got ourselves 3 laps remaining now. So just talk us through a lap here as we ride on board with the guy who's running in P3, Richard Avery.
All right, so he's coming out of this tight hairpin, and his goal here, this next right-hander is flat out, and your braking zone here is going to be pretty late for the carousel, pretty late, and you want to bring yourself out to about mid-track. And he didn't quite bring it back inside like he needed to. You want to run a bit to the inside there. So you come down to the second, or excuse me, the first side hairpin, I would say. Hard on the brakes, and this is very diamond cut line. It's think of the hairpin at Laguna Seca. You need to run out wide through the middle. Now through the S's, you basically just throw the car through these, and then just stick very, very fast. And then now down to the chicane. Hard on the brakes, and then you need to be careful on the curbs here. The car likes the pogo, but you do definitely need to take some of it. And now you need to get yourself a good clean launch out of here. And you come down to the IndyCar hairpin, which I hate. Braking about on the where the tire is on the left end, you need to clip tight. And then get yourself a good clean run on back out onto the front stretch. This little kink is flat. This next little kink is flat. And then down into turn 1 is probably the most difficult corner on the racetrack because it's left and it's going uphill and it's off camber and then it's on camber. And then get yourself a good clean out run out of the corner. And then back into this uphill chicane, which is oh so difficult. Almost like a backwards corkscrew.
So then there's a lap on board with Richard Avery. Last lap time at 1 minute 15.819. The guy running out front, however, is Jeffrey Redfield. He kind of keep that gap consistent between himself and P2 at about 5.5 seconds since about lap 10 in this event. And Redfield in that car has just been really, really strong here today. Got to give him a lot of credit for a lap and about a third left to go in this event there, Jake.
Yeah, just under a lap now to go, or just over a lap, sorry, to go in this one, and he's now got the back marking car of Niles Kosh in front of him, and he's going to make light work of him, I think, to the second hairpin, as he's not actually going to make it. Yes, he will. He'll get that up the inside there. But yeah, he's had no questions really asked of him today, and Hagelin's not been anywhere near on his pace for a DWC driver, so great running by him so far, as he now just takes the white flag onto the final lap of this 34-lap race at Sonoma.
Yeah, so 1 lap left to go for Jeffrey Redfield, and we'll zoom out. You can see there is Redfield, and we'll just zoom in to see where Hagelin is. There is Hagelin, just working himself now down to 3A, 3B. So Hagelin is 5 seconds back. He has had a strong race, and of course he has got himself a 6-second advantage over Richard Avery in that battle for P3 on the racetrack. So right on board with Antoine Hagelin in this last lap of this event. But it is all been today about this guy out front, Jeremy Redfield. There you see the gap as they work themselves through the hairpin for the final time. We're right on board. We'll just take in a moment here with Jeremy Redfield as he works himself through the S's. Down to the chicane then for the final time for Jeremy Redfield. Just a couple of corners left to go for him as he works himself now down into the hairpin for the final time. This race has all been about that #1 machine of Jeremy Redfield. He works himself out of the hairpin for the final time towards the start finish line. Jeremy Redfield is your winner here at Sonoma.
Absolutely fantastic drive from Jeremy there. Then we got Antoine crossing the line as well. Great drive from him, and then Richard Avery, the last of the podium. Definitely the top 3 of the field today.
Yeah, you see Avery crossing the line, then Samuel De La Fuente running himself in the 4th position, just coming himself now down into the hairpin for the final time. Just one more corner left for him to go. He comes out of that, comes to our past start finish line. He will take P4 in this event. Junior Ligo will come home in P5. There you are. You see him just crossing the screen right now. Fabio Gonzalez working himself out of the hairpin for himself. He will come across the start finish line and finish himself in the 6th position on the racetrack. Then behind him, you've got yourself Marco Morgan, P7 for him. Carlo Labatti now coming down into the hairpin for the final time. He will get himself a P8 here in this event, in that supernova machine, as he just comes himself now past the start finish line. And Gold Guerrez, a disappointing race for him, Jake. Only P9. Of course, he had that incident early on, which took him out of podium contention.
Yeah, disappointing for him being the car number 4, but he did have them 2 early incidents, one into the first hairpin and then obviously the second through the chicane, and that really ruined his race after he picked up a tiny bit of damage as well and went into the pits early, so it could have ruined his strategy as well, but very unfortunate for him, so he's going to have to come back next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is your race winner, Jeremy Retfeld, here in this event. Jeremy Retfeld, a great drive by him. We will just step aside for 1 moment's time, then we'll bring you final race classifications, and if those 2 people can get themselves some interviews, we'll get some interviews as well here on RaceSpotTV. We'll step aside, we will be right back.
Bedham?
Stop singing Pink Panther. Oh, definitely. Jeffrey was super fast out of the pits. And the other story with the pits is definitely Antoine hitting the wall on his entry. He managed to do a pretty decent job recovering, though. He brought that gap down to about 4.5 seconds. So can't really fault him too much.
Mr. Jake Cameron, God, I've never been called that before, Will, thank you.
Yeah, he's used to getting called Mrs. Jake Cameron.
Well, there is that one as well, Randy, but I'm not the one with the big tits here. So, my driver of the race would be, it would have to be our race winner in that one, Will. He drove an absolute astounding race in that, and no one could really touch him, so congratulations to him, and I'm sure he could go top of the championship out of that one as well.
Alexander Vob, because the last character in his last name confused me so much I couldn't pay attention to anybody else. Alright, well he gets to drive the race because we always screw up his name.
World Championship Grand Prix Series, that will be here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. And the next one, the championship at the Autodromo, Jose Carlos Pace. Can Oli Picard make it 2 in a row? Will Gregor Hutu make it 8 wins out on 9 races? What can Hugo Luis, Martin Cronke, etc. and Nauseum do? And of course, tomorrow we've got ISOWC competition from the Sonoma Raceway as well. For myself, Will Vincent, also from Jake Cameron and Randy Chenoweth. This has been a RaceSpotTV presentation of the iRacing.com IndyCar Road Course Championship powered by And One Design. We'll talk to you all next time. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, just before we go, I would like to, first of all, say 2 things. First one, I'm not a Jets fan. It's a Tim Tebow shirt. It's ironic. Second of all, on YouTube tomorrow, you will see me do the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge outside from Starbucks in Birmingham New Street. I am going to have Ernesto de la Pena. Come onto the screen. Come on. Off you come. Off you come. You're going to have to lean over, by the way. There we are. There's Ernesto de la Pena's hand and half of his face. We're going to get the people from Starbucks doing it as well. ALS, the lung disease, is a great cause. Give money to it. Tomorrow, RaceSpotTV's YouTube channel, you will see Will Vincent Ice Bucket Challenge. Watch it. It's going to be fucking amazing. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.